pala ay Friday, 11:23 ng gabi. At ang cargo ko ay dishwashing machines, 8 tons. Ito. Ngel eh. At pupunta at i-deliver ko ang mga ito sa Truckee, California, Walmart. Nandito pala ako sa Primm, Nevada. Ito. At ang ruta ko ay Primm, Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. Dadaan ako ng Tanopa, Nevada. Dadaan ako sa Carson City, Nevada. Reno, Nevada. At dito sa Truckee, parte na ng California ito. Ito yung boundary. Border. Boundary, state boundary. Nagkagasolina ako. Kaya ito ako. Tutulog muna ako kasi gabi na eh. Para maliwanag. Tapos naggasolina ako. Gusto ko yung along the way. Ito. Ayan. So, ang trip diameter, ang trip distance ko ay 576 miles. Estimated trip duration is 10 hours. Let's go. Ready to go. Ako'y tutulog muna. Para mas rin mag-drive sa araw. Mahirap mag-drive sa gabi. Meron tayo ipaparepair. Gulong repair. Bago, wala. 8x4, 270. Ano to? 8x4 na to eh. Hindi naman na 8x4. Ano ba? Napin ako. Ano ba? Yun. Okay. May tulog pa. Dito muna. Tulog muna. Rest. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. na ng umaga. It's time to resume our job. Okay, nakahook na tayo. Let's go. So, meron pa tayong 19 hours na allowance, driving allowance para makarating sa destination natin, Truckee, Walmart. Here. Wala pang mga sasakyan.
at all times. The breadth of the earth, exactly. That plateaus thing, that spread out, wide, flat thing. Oh, I can have fun. I can keep going. Now, why do they say earth fixed system? Well, it's interesting. Here's a few verses, right? The earth is not spinning. According to the Bible, Chronicles 16:30, he has fixed the earth firm and immovable. Psalm 93:1, thou hast fixed the earth immovable and firm. Psalm 96:10, he has fixed the earth firm and immovable. Psalm 105, thou didst fix the earth on its foundation so that it never can be shaken. Who made the earth and fashioned it himself, fixed it fast? And of course, one of my favorites that I didn't put on here, Zechariah 1:11, it says the earth is still and it rests. Earth fixed system, they're telling you, non-rotating, earth fixed. The word fixed means it's not moving, it's not going anywhere. Of course, this was proven by these two scientists in physics, Michelson and Morley. They proved this a long time ago. These two scientists conducted numerous experiments to measure the orbital velocity of the Earth through the ether with light beams. I'm going to talk about the ether. The ether is real. And these documents I found prove they believe it's real. And we're going to get into that next week. But, and many present theoretical physicists believe the ether is real now. It was taboo subject for a long time, but not anymore. And this through the godless and anti-Bible scientists. Of course, I said their experiments showed that the earth was not moving at all. Now they expected, these guys believed the model, the lie, the Copernican model, they believed they were going to measure how fast the earth was moving. Their experiment showed it wasn't moving. And they were like, well, what's going on? And they repeated these experiments over and over and over again and came up with the same results, true science, the earth's not moving. So Einstein comes up with a theory to debunk this, to get rid of the ether so he can debunk their experiment. And of course, we know what Tesla said about the theory of relativity, that it was foolishness, basically. What's this one? This is NASA Technical Memorandum, NASA.gov, mathematical model of a CH-53 helicopter. You guys know a helicopter pilot, right? So here's the NASA manual on that. Ames Research Center, Moffett Field, California. Equations of motion. The helicopter equations of motion are given in body axes with respect to a flat, non-rotating Earth. Meaning the helicopter takes off, it doesn't have to worry about the Earth spinning below it. That's right. Can't stay in one spot and wait on China. I love it. Exactly. Now, I'm going to go back to one. This is the first government document. I shared this at the Flat Earth International Conference in Raleigh in my presentation, 2017, last November, that Robbie Davidson put on. I thought this was something to find this document. All right? This is, how little did I know. This was the tip of the iceberg. But this is a NASA technical manual. You can look it up. Anybody out there watching and listening this morning, you can Google NASA document 1207. You can pull up, it'll take you straight to nasa.gov. You can pull up the PDF. You can read this for yourself. This is free information. Okay? So, Stephen Anderson, Danny Faulkner, Pastor Lawson, Ken Hovine. This is what NASA says. And I'm going to show you, they say far worse than what's in this document today. Right? But here's what they say. The derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model. In the introduction, they flat out say right here, this report documents the derivation, which means the origin, and the definition of linear aircraft model for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Everybody see that? Derivation means the origin. Definition means this is how it's defined. This is how it works. So they're talking about the equations, and you want to talk about the calculus and trig this thing gets into. The equations are based on these airplanes flying over a non-rotating flat Earth. Question: why would this be in any technical manual of anybody if it doesn't exist? I mean, think about it. They claim the Coriolis effect, that snipers have to calculate the spinning of the earth, the Coriolis effect, when they're shooting at, 1,000-yard shot or something. Yet they don't have to for Mach 1, 2, 3, 4 aircraft. You don't have to calculate the spin. No. This is just about, these planes fly over non-rotating flat air. So, well, Pastor Dean, this is what I heard. Oh, well, they're just doing that to simplify the equations. Oh, really? I'm sorry. I didn't know that NASA rocket scientists and MIT mathematicians couldn't factor in 8 inches per mile squared. I'm sorry, they have to simplify the math. Maybe they missed a class at MIT or something. I don't know. But this is crazy. Now, you can try to dismiss this if you want to, but it's also in the conclusion, the concluding remarks of the report and all the math and the equations. Look at that. This report derives and defines a set linearized system matrices for rigid aircraft of constant mass flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. I didn't write that. It seems that someone at NASA is a flat earther. Oh my God. Right? How can this be? No, they have to design stuff for it to work the way things are. That's why. Let's keep going here. There's your definition of derivation: obtaining or developing something from a source of origin. Why would you develop the equations for aircraft to fly over something that doesn't exist? Oh, let's factor in the unicorn equation, just in case, the Pegasus, the flying horse equation. So, yeah. No, they're telling you it exists. Definition, of course, is a statement of the exact meaning of something. Here's some of my detractors. They talk about the said documents quoted are quote mined and cherry-picked by fraudulent and deceptive flatheads. One example, NASA official document 1207 admits flat Earth. The sad fact is that they don't bother or are too ignorant to read and understand. And what's interesting about this, and of course he goes, these models are widely used not only for computer applications but also for quick approximations and desk calculations, leaving out Earth curvature and rotation for simplification. So again, I covered that. They're going to claim that it's to simplify their math and equations and their work. So they do it real quick on the desk, but I looked up approximation, and an approximation means not really correct, right? So anyway, they write a lot of stuff that's not really correct, but I wanted to address the issue of cherry picking. Of course, the same thing said here pretty much, and let's just deal with this. I actually had to put this on Facebook because it really illustrates the point. Here we have an orange tree with cherries on it. Okay, first of all, that doesn't exist in nature unless it's some kind of genetic manipulated thing in a lab somewhere. But this doesn't really exist. I said, some people have accused me of cherry picking through the government documents that state their equations are based on a flat, non-rotating Earth. But should there be any flat Earth cherries to pick on a globe Earth orange tree? Should there at all? But they tell me that the cherries are on the orange tree to simplify the orange tree math. Thus, I should ignore the cherries. I just wanted to illustrate that, of course. And there's your globe Earth tree with flat Earth cherries on it to pick, okay? And really, if it's not flat, why address that? And some of them tried to say, well, okay, it was because of just for short distances. Well, I don't see the shuttle landing over short distances. Even the true thing it's used for, which I'm going to address this morning. I don't see Mach 1, 2, 3, and Mach 4 aircraft like the SR-71. I don't see it being short distances that it covers in very, very short amount of time. All right? So what I'm getting at is that excuse really falls flat. And as I said last week, and I'm going to stand firm on this, the reason that so many different government documents, technical manuals, MIT, different universities, Georgia Tech we addressed, use these flat earth equations is because it is flat. All right? And they know it, and they've known it for a long time, and they have to design things to work as reality is. Okay? Let's think about that. Here we go. All right? Here's another one I wanted to address, this one right here, because I found something absolutely funny. This guy said, why did you lie about the Russian Earth measurements document? It clearly states several times that the Earth is a geoid, okay? Which this was the funniest thing, because if you go to the document, and I'm going to show you in a minute, but if you go to the document and you keep reading, and you got to remember, I couldn't go through documents that had 10, 20, 100 pages, 200 pages, 1,100. I couldn't do that last week, or we would have been here, for several days. But so he's talked about, well, they clearly said the Earth is a geoid, right? Now here's what's funny. Do you see this website here? The National Geodetic Survey.gov. Everybody see that? I'm like, I don't know what a geoid is. I was assuming that geoid meant, well, we don't really know, but we still believe the Earth is maybe a lumpy sphere, right? A lumpy sphere, or maybe like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, it's pear-shaped, right? Or an oblate spheroid. Yet all the pictures we get from NASA from space, it's perfectly spherical. Yet they tell us it's an oblate spheroid. Then they tell us it's, they tell us it's pear-shaped. Then they tell us it's a geoid, and then as the Russia document's going to say, well, we don't know if it's a geoid, an ellipsoid, or a quasi-geoid. All right? Quasi-geoid. So I went to the United States Government National Geodetic Survey to get a definition. What is a geoid? If this is what the Russians were saying the shape was, and really, as I stated in the Russian document, they stated the shape of the Earth is unknown, is what they said. Right? And which is mind-boggling itself. So here's the definition from their site. I don't know if you can see it, ngsnoaa.gov up there at the top. And I'm going to try to read this. But here's what it says. It says, there have been many definitions of a geoid over 150 years or so. Here is the one currently adopted by the National Geodetic Survey. Right? Geoid, the equipotential surface of the Earth's gravity field which best fits in a least square sense global mean sea level. Okay? Then they say this. Even though we adopt a definition, that does not mean we are perfect in the realization of that definition. For example, altimetry is often used to define mean sea level in the oceans, but altimetry is not global, missing the near polar regions. As fit, the between global mean sea level and the geoid is not entirely confirmable. Does this sound like they have a clear definition of what a geoid is? Okay? So, the Russians stating in classified documents, or what used to be classified documents, in their Earth measurements, 1948, declassified, as you can see, is from the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. These documents were classified, listing, notice he says geoid. This is where I talked about last week. It says it's not determinable at all points of space without knowledge of the shape of the Earth. But since the shape of the Earth is not known, they tell you that. And then, of course, I get into some of this. The system now adopted for reduction to a geoid and to an ellipsoid from a geoid is inadequate. I mean, again, they're sitting here going, we don't know. Now, let me say this. Even people who believe in the biblical cosmology, the flat enclosed system, we do believe that the Earth is some type of geometric shape. We just don't know, but we know that the surface in which we live on is flat with contour. All right, that's what we observe. That's what we can test, like our tests. 13, 14 miles across Mobile Bay prove that there's absolutely no curvature whatsoever when you do the math. And we had engineers with us. We had a geometry teacher with us. I mean, these are not dumb people, all right? And these tests are being done all over the world. And you can see they go on to talk about it, the geoid, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it says for the sake of definiteness, I guess, definiteness, we are obliged to introduce a new term for the surface in question. Let us agree to call it a quasi-geoid. On the ocean plane, the quasi-geoid coincides with the geoid, but on the continents, the quasi-geoid can be taken, if necessary, as an appropriate expression of the geoid shape. I mean, anybody understand what they're talking about? No. Okay. I don't think they do either. Now let's get into this. I just wanted to address the question. When the National Geodetic Survey says we can't really define a geoid, I think that says enough, right? But I will hear, no, it means a sphere, really? Okay, or it means an oval, or it means a pear. So, okay, you guys need to make up your mind, because the pictures we get, the alleged pictures, which are composite images from NASA, says it's always perfect circle. Oh, so just saying, somebody's confused. We know that the so-called space program and most of the governments of the world, but let's just deal with NASA real quick, that it was founded and filled with Nazis from Nazi Germany, scientists like Werner von Braun that we brought over here, scrubbed their evil doings in the Hitler's SS, put them in charge of all kinds of things in our government. But most of your astronauts were openly Freemasons. You see there's the ring on Buzz Aldrin. There's Buzz doing the 666, one eye, Illuminati symbolism. Here's the medallion for the moon landing. It's a Freemason medallion. I mean, it's just hear them worshiping the triangle, with their Masonic aprons on. And the high-level Masons take blood oaths. They know they're worshiping Lucifer. Albert Pike and others, Manly P. Hall, made this very clear. So we're dealing in both in the governments of the world, wealthy, a lot of the wealthy people, a lot of the astronauts, a lot of the early rockets. I mean, they're coming out with or they just came out with the strange angel about Jack Parsons. And they're just showing that he was deeply into Satanism and the occult and cult rituals. And he was the one of, basically the father of modern rocketry, Of course, they try to diminish the fact that he was really the one that spearheaded it, because he was an obvious Satanist, hang out with Aleister Crowley and so on and so forth. But what blows my mind, and I like this little meme here that my friend Paul NASA Lies Thomas did, but just pointing it out. Who are we going to believe? Who are we going to believe? We're going to believe God's Word, or we're going to believe Luciferian Freemasons? And here was the one that kind of started. This is the title of one of the manuals. Everybody read this with me. Propagation of electromagnetic fields over flat Earth. Army Manual, February 2001. You can say, oh, Pastor D, the 1950s stuff and the 1960s stuff, oh, they just didn't know. They've learned stuff since, right? Nope. They tell you right here. And you go into the manual, here's the table of contents. It says comparison of principal fields from an ideal dipole oriented perpendicular to a horizontal and homogeneous flat Earth. Army Manual. They tell you right here, it's assumed that the transmitting antenna and target or receiver are located above but near the surface of a flat idealized Earth. Over and over again. Army Research Laboratory. This is another one, calculating low atmosphere profiles, sound speed at night. So calculating sound speed, all right, pretty important stuff. It says to briefly examine short-range acoustic attenuation at night, we use low atmosphere profiles of wind speed, temperature, relative humidity shown before as input to a flat earth non-turbulent acoustic propagation model called the Windows version scanning fast field program. So, Ted, you're a computer guy. They're talking about running a computer program and using as input to a what? Flat earth. Non-turbulent atmosphere. Which means, you know what they tell us? That the atmosphere is not moving with the spin of the earth. It's non-turbulent. I mean, it's not carrying anything with it. Isn't this interesting? I haven't had to go to one conspiracy website. I haven't been on Infowars.com, Snopes. I haven't been anywhere, have I? I hadn't been to Above, Top Secret. I haven't been to any of those sites. No. Here's MIT. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the top technical school in the country. Or at least one of the top. I'm sure they argue among themselves who's the top. What's this? dspace.mit.edu. Right? Property-based system design method with application to targeting system for small unmanned vehicles. So this is a targeting system developed Massachusetts Institute of Technology, blah, blah, blah. Tells you who it is, the author of this. And then in the description it says 3 targeting methods were considered assuming a flat earth. Whoa. Why would an MIT professor, PhD, why would he assume the earth is flat? Assuming a flat earth. No, he says 3 targeting methods. Consider assuming a flat earth using DTED data and using angle range data. The evaluation, I hit it myself. The evaluation revealed a descending utility order, flat earth and range based upon the system's requirements. I mean, these and aeronautics and astronaut. Flat earth assumption, mind blowing. Just wanted you to see MIT and other doctoral candidates and PhDs saying it's flat and it's not moving. That's what the Bible said. It's flat, it's not moving. If I say it, I'm crazy. But these guys can say it, and their papers get passed around among the elite, and a lot of them classified. Yes, and many of them do have Nobel Prize, and they get sometimes they get classified, right? And then declassified. Here's one. This one is NASA.gov. Now this is general equations of motion for a damaged asymmetric aircraft. So what they're trying to do is fix equations if a plane loses part of its wing or tail fin or whatever, how to compensate and all that stuff, right? So that's what this is about. And the technical manual gives you this stuff. The introduction, here's the introduction, right? Just so you know, it says, in order to analyze the dynamics of damaged aircraft, the dynamic equations of motion must properly reflect the underlying physics. Now, I want to say that again. I want everybody to pay close attention. They're telling you right here in the introduction of this, and they're showing you a damaged aircraft. They're saying, in order to analyze the dynamics of damaged aircraft and dynamic equations of motion must properly reflect the underlying physics. It must, what we're going to do here must reflect the true physics. Physics. He said, you don't understand physics. Okay, well, these people do. All right? Who are we talking about here? The American Institute of Aeronautics, Astronautics. And here's what they say. Rigid body equations of motion, reference to an arbitrary fixed point on the body. There are several approaches that can be used to develop the general equations of motion. The one selected here starts with Newton's laws applied to the collection of particles defining the rigid body. Any number of dynamics or physics books can serve as references. So they're saying the physics books can serve as references. I said, in this paper, the rigid body equations of motion over a flat, non-rotating Earth are developed. Why? Why? So you're telling me that the physics of a non-rotating flat Earth are the proper physics in a NASA document. This is not Pastor Dean saying this. These are NASA documents. These are government documents. Does everybody see that? No. No. Over many years, different schools, the University of Delaware, Georgia Tech, MIT. No. Russian scientists. Now, here's a doctoral dissertation by a PhD candidate that became part of this European Control Conference. In fact, I guess he graduated, but this doctoral dissertation that he began to speak to, I guess, the European Space Agency or whatever, a new path planner based on flatness approach, application to an atmosphere reentry mission. This was designed for the space shuttle, quote, reentry. And it's funny, they put orbit and reentry and stuff like that into quotations. And I'll explain all that next week. We'll get into that next week. But notice the outline of his doctoral dissertation, statement of guidance problem. Why would you have a guidance problem? Well, if you're basing stuff on a spherical Earth and it's really flat, you're going to have a guidance problem. Right? So this guy comes along and goes, you know what? We got to get back to a flatness approach. I'm not making this up. Right? Flatness-based trajectory plan. Here we go. He's talking about for this little vehicle right here. And we'll keep going. Notice he says model in flat Earth coordinates. Everybody see that? Again, this doesn't exist, right? Flat Earth doesn't exist, but we're going to have a model for it and all this unicorn math. Sprinkled with fairy dust. So this guy's doing a doctoral dissertation in this present time to help with guidance system of the shuttle, and now we have unmanned shuttle system. But he's doing this and saying we've had guidance problems, so we got to go to a flatness approach, to a flat Earth model. Now I'm going to tell you, this guy's way smarter than me. I couldn't do this kind of math, not even in my dreams. Okay? But he does. And he says, guys, we need a flat Earth model. And here's the math for it. Shall we keep going? Notice this. Assumptions, meaning things we assume are true. Flat Earth. Coriolis and centrifugal forces neglected. Here's a doctoral candidate who graduated, got his PhD, becomes a speaker to the European Control Council, and he's telling them it's a flat Earth. We ignore Coriolis, meaning the spin of the Earth. It's completely ignored. Why? Because it doesn't exist. And it's what the Bible said all along. The Earth is fixed, stable, immovable, still, and at rest. Everything secret is being uncovered. Now, let me show you. I want to make my illustration this morning. I know I've said it before. But I want to use the illustration of a log split. Something us Alabama boys appreciate. I don't have one. If anybody wants to buy me one, you're welcome to. I do it the old-fashioned way with a maul and wedges and sledgehammers. Log splitter would be nice. But log splitters, they're engines, and they're generating certain pounds of pressure, and there's a lot of science involved in this, true science, right? And so here we have how to calculate the splitting force of a log splitter. I mean, we got this guy. I mean, this guy broke down the calculation, right? So we can figure out the pounds per square inch. I mean, the larger the logs, the more splitting force you will need. I know all about this. Right? Measure the diameter. I mean, he goes through, he tells you how to calculate pounds per square inch, the piston, and all this stuff, right, for a log splitter. So if you got all this calculation to figure out the PSI of a log splitter, at some point in your calculations, would you say, you know what? I've got to throw in the Thor hammer assumption. I'm going to throw this in so it'll be right. So we just assume that we've got the log splitter, maybe we got a tough log, but we're going to make sure we have the Thor hammer. No, you would never say that. You would never say that. Why? Because Thor is a mythical individual. His hammer, mythical. It's not true. It's not a fact. No part of it's a fact. So why would you include that in a log splitter equation when you're trying to explain to somebody how a log splitter works and how the pistons work and how you create the pressure to split the logs? Why would you say, oh, but we got to throw in the Thor hammer assumption and equations for the Thor hammer in assistance with the log splitter? But that's what NASA does. And that's what the excuse you will hear. You share this message, you share these documents, and you'll start to hear, well, now, they don't mean, they don't mean what they're saying. So are they in literature school or are they in rocket science school? Metaphors, exactly, metaphors. Scientific, mathematical metaphors. Oh, payloads for spinning projectiles. Army. Think you need to know where artillery is going to land? Look here. Projectile flight dynamics. A 6 DOF rigid projectile model is employed to predict the dynamics of a projectile in flight. The assumption of these equations assume a flat Earth. These equations, a whole bunch of math we're going to do. BG Karpov experimental observations of dynamic behavior of liquid-filled shells. U.S. Army Ballistics Research Laboratory, Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland, August 1961 is a reference to this. But he says, and again, a projectile. You want to know where that artillery round is going to land. And what this study is, the one that has a solid explosive versus one that has a liquid payload. About chemical weapons or biological weapons. So they want to know, figure out the equations. So a 6 DOF rigid projectile model is employed to predict the dynamics of a projectile in flight. These equations assume a flat Earth. Again, why would you do unicorn math? Why would you do Thor hammer math if they don't exist? Why would you try to calculate ballistic missiles, unguided rockets, shuttle landings? Why would you base all your equations, all of your science on a flat Earth, non-rotating, non-moving, stationary atmosphere if it doesn't exist no more than a unicorn or Thor's hammer? This is the Army Research Laboratory. Notice every time when you see dot mil, whenever you see dot mil, the only people that can have dot mil, military. This is the Army's Research Laboratory. Beacon position and altitude navigation aided by magnetometer. I'm not going to try to pronounce those people's names. You can see the documents prepared by the University of Delaware, Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, under contract of the U.S. government. I guess these people are dummies, right? They're stupid, right? This tells you who they are. I'm not going to get into all that, but this tells you the PhDs and the people who were assisting this study. And here we find something. Problem formulation, coordinate systems. The motion of an object usually described by rigid body equations of motion derived from Newton's laws. This section summarizes and notates 3 kinds of coordinate systems. The first is the Earth-fixed coordinate system, which is fixed to the Earth with a flat Earth assumption. Okay, now remember, we're talking about beacons for aircraft, and aircraft flying, moving, and we're talking about stuff that's moving. Why would you assume, first of all, why would you use the term earth fixed? I'll deal with that in a second. And a flat earth assumption. An assumption means something that is just known to be true. It's just assumed because it is known. It gets more interesting because they have a little diagram here of what they're talking about. And this little diagram of the earth seems to look like something. And they tell you that this y-axis and the x-axis are horizontal. Oh, like that. Horizontal. And that this little disc right here is flat. And it even has a nice little dome over it. And fixed points on the dome that they use for navigation. This is not me. I want to repeat, Army Research Laboratory, .army.mil, not Pastor Dean. Yes, sir. Say it loud. Oh. Yep, absolutely. And look, does this not look like something maybe we've seen? Oh, what is that? Let me back up. Do you see that? But we're the crazy ones. Why is the biblical Hebrew cosmology shape of the earth in a U.S. Army manual? Why? Oh, Pastor Dean, that's just a coincidence. Oh, let's keep going. Hang on. Here we go. This is a different one. Everybody see where this came from? NASA.gov. You could interchange CIA.gov, NASA.gov, it's all the same. Okay? They work together. In fact, I believe that all high-level NASA people are spooks, is what I believe. All right? Here we have the singular arc time optimal climb trajectory of aircraft in a two-dimensional wind field. Oh, Lord. These guys. All right. NASA research. Smart people are rocket scientists. Everybody says, I'm not a rocket scientist. Well, these are. All right. So this document goes on to say, in our minimum time to climb problem, the aircraft is modeled as a point mass, and the flight trajectory is strictly confined in a vertical plane on a non-rotating flat Earth. Do you see that? Does everybody see that? And then they've got this nice little equation here. Thus, the pertinent equations of motion for the problem are defined in its distinct variable form as, and then they give you the math. Wait a minute, is this unicorn math? Is this Thor hammer math? Wait a minute, no, it's flat, whoa, what, flat, non-rotating flat Earth math. Oh, I'm sorry. Could we just substitute Pegasus, unicorns? No, exactly. Let's keep going. Here's another one. Closed form solution for ballistic vehicle motion. Ballistic vehicle motion. A closed form solution is developed for the motion of a ballistic vehicle entering the atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Frank J. Barbera, Cayman Sciences Corporation, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Closed form solution for ballistic vehicle motion. Meaning we got to know where this thing's going to come down. And what does it say right here? Entering the atmosphere over a non-rotating flat Earth. That's in there. Here's another one. Vision-based mobile target geolocalization and target discrimination using Bayes detection theory. Oh, a mouthful, right? This is a more modern, I can't remember the year on this one, but anyway, you see this is the Academy Center for the United States Air Force, U.S. Air Force Academy, UAS Research, and this is for targeting for unmanned vehicle, aerial vehicles targeting manual. Yes. Oh yeah, this one does have his email on it. Here we go, check it out here. The objective of geolocalization problem is to estimate range to target, which can be estimated using the flat earth model shown in figure 2. Now, let me explain something to you. I played a little golf in my day, right? And I know that I hit a 9-iron 160 yards on a normal day. So if the ground is level, I know if I hit my 9-iron the correct way, it's going to fly in a nice little arc, and it's going to land about 160 yards right on the green and roll right up to the end. I've actually made an eagle that way. All right? So I know. So if the ground is 20 yards higher, say the green is 20 yards higher from where I'm standing, so you change the altitude. The ball is not going to fly in the air as long, so it's not going to go as far. So if it's a little higher, I have to go to an 8-iron. Back it up, so because I'm going to hit an 8-iron or even a 7-iron, so the ball will get there. It's the opposite. If it's lower by say 20 yards, then I usually have to back up a couple of clubs and maybe hit a pitching wedge. So it changes where where my ball's going to land, the target. I'm shooting at that pin, at that green. But I know just the slight changes in elevation are going to change the distance that my ball will travel. And I've hit enough balls with those clubs to know how far they're going to go if I hit them right. Huh? So we're talking about here unmanned aerial vehicles targeting objects. Stuff that's moving in the air and on the ground. And what do they say? It says the objective of geolocalization problem is to estimate range to target, which can be estimated using the flat earth model shown in figure 2, which would be this little thing right here. No curve. Do you notice? The flat earth model. And your little aerial craft locating a target. Now, if this line was curved here, as it does, 8 inches per mile squared, that line is going to intersect at a different point. I'm not a geometry teacher, but that I know. Maybe it's just from golf. All right? Flat earth model, range estimation using flat earth assumption. Unmanned vehicle targeting manual. From ResearchGate, but of course we showed you, United States Air Force Academy. Did everybody see that? Wait a minute. What if I had a flat earth model on my desk? I'd be called a nut! Crazy! You know what? Maybe the Lord's having me show you, because you know what I think one of the things they're going to try to do to some of us Christians, that if we believe in biblical cosmology and flat earth, I believe that they're going to try to say we're crazy and try to take our kids away and stuff like that. Having these documents in court would be a powerful tool, wouldn't it? Now, if they would be a powerful tool in court against the government, why are they not a powerful tool right now in church?